Hello, YouTube friends. Ben Ochart here. Thank you so much for tuning back in. If you also watched today's earlier live stream, I feel like I owed you a live stream part two because we had to end off the earlier recording because of some issues that we ran into. It's getting a little bit ridiculous, but I have gone ahead and deleted all of the software related to my streaming action and gone ahead and reloaded it. So it should be clean and ready, and the quality that you're seeing here should be the quality that you'll be getting in future live streams, hopefully. So at any rate, I just wanted to go ahead and finish up what I started earlier today, and during the end of the earlier live stream, we had a discussion a little bit about salt, and we have different kinds of salt products like this one, and also like this one. And sometimes folks will get these products confused. This is not salt in the traditional sense. This is really just trace minerals, and this is more like what people are referring to when they talk about salt. Epsom salt, kosher salt, those things all work in an aquarium. And I use the Fritz product when I have issues. And what I'll normally do is I will not salt the entire aquarium. I'll move the fish out to a quarantine tank and then add the salt at 1 tablespoon for every 5 gallons. Now, if you're adding salt to your entire tank and you get evaporation and you top off, you don't need to add more salt because that salt doesn't evaporate. However, if you do water changes, you do need to replace the salt because you will remove the salt that way. The aquarium, the cichlid lake salt is more for the adding of trace minerals. Trace minerals are vital for the health of your fish, and they get it from whatever is available in the water. Now, I know that recently somebody released a video talking about how we're doing too many water changes. I think it was Bob, and he didn't understand why some people were doing weekly water changes. Certainly, if you have a lightly stocked tank with a lot of plants and things like that, certainly you can go extended periods without water changes. And by extended period, I mean maybe about a month or so, in my opinion. A tank that's heavily stocked, like an African cichlid tank, that has a very heavy or overstocked population of fish in an effort to spread out aggression. A situation like that, certainly for me, it's worked to do water changes every week. That also helps to replace minerals that can sink to the bottom and then not be available to the fish as they swim around. So to help out in that, I do use cichlid lake salt. I don't use it in the prescribed manner, the way it's discussed on the back. The way I use it is I just simply add a heaping tablespoon to my aquarium. The aquarium salt, like the Fritz Plus or things like that, kosher salt, these things you could do a heavier concentration and do what is called a salt bath. That can be very stressful on the fish. Usually what folks will do is they'll put the fish in the bath and then let it be in there until it starts to show a little bit of distress and then move it back to an unsalted quarantine tank, something like that. There's a discussion on it on the Fritz packaging. Now, in tomorrow's video, Sunday, I'm going to be discussing a new fish that I just acquired. And the way I was able to get a tank up and running instantly for that fish was by stealing some of the beneficial bacteria that was on filter media in some of my existing tanks. I pulled the pinky floss out of the hang-on back filters behind me, and I pulled some of the sponges out of some of the Expert-Matic filters. So you'll see how I did that and I'll talk about it some more in tomorrow's video where I take a trip out to a local fish store and end up falling in love with a pretty big fish. Brought him home. He was too big to put into my existing tanks, so I had to make an instant tank for him. So at any rate, that's really pretty much all I had to add. And I want to thank all of you who have hung in there with me in the learning curve of creating these live streams. And one last thing. I do have one last little rant. When I was setting up that tank, I needed to add a heater because it's still a little bit cool here in Nashville. And I added this heater. It's a heater I've used before. It's an expensive heater, a Cobalt Neotherm. And this one happens to be 150 watts. And when I plugged it in, it's supposed to set itself at 78 degrees. What it did is it went to 94 degrees. And I couldn't get it no matter how. I unplugged it, plugged it back in. I messed with the button at the top. I couldn't get it to reset itself at the factory reset, which is supposed to occur after you plug it in. It's supposed to go to 78. So Cobalt, this is the second time this has happened. This is an expensive heater, and for what you pay, I'm a bit disappointed in Cobalt, and at this point, I can't honestly recommend these heaters. I have a couple of them running right now. Sorry, Cobalt, I can't recommend your heater anymore. I've had it happen with 2 of your units, and if that heater had been simply plugged in and I had walked away, I would have cooked that fish unless I had been plugged into a controller. Again, another case for having a controller, because it would catch stuff like that and not let a heater overheat your aquarium and ultimately damage your fish. So that's my rant, and that's the second part, part 2 of today's live stream. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll keep it short and simple, and I hope that this is the audio and video quality that we'll be seeing in the future. It's not that hard. I'm not sure what's been going on, but I thank you for hanging in there. And a big shout out to my moderators and to all of you that did a super chat today. You are very, very appreciated. Bye-bye.